Hi everyone, my name is Joyce and welcome back to Thriving in the City, a channel we are sharing our experiences as early career professionals working in the city, wherever that is for you. In today's video, I'm going to just explain what investment banking really is, as the title probably suggests. I have worked in investment banking doing M&A for just over 6 years now. I definitely have a thing where people ask me a lot of questions or like treat working in investment banking like this all elite, so cool, unicorn type job that people don't know much about. And so today I just thought I'd bust some, I cannot bust any myths, I'm not actually busting any myths, just sharing what it is really about. So the first question I'm going to try and answer is, what is investment banking? Put very simply, I would say that investment banking is advising corporates making big financial decisions. So these big financial decisions could be in form of raising money or buying a company or selling a company. So raising money in terms of businesses need capital, companies need money to run, right? So they need to raise money, and they need to raise that money either through debt, where they borrow money, or through equity, where they get new shareholders, they get new owners. And so we basically advise them on that whole process, how to go about it, who to talk to, like that type of thing. We're structuring those transactions. The other part of it, which is the buying and selling of companies, is what is referred to as the whole M&A. When you hear the word M&A, it means mergers and acquisitions. And so yeah, that's what it is. When you're buying and selling a company, I'm going to take an example of if you had a designer bag and you want to like sell, like I would learn to have a Kelly, so let's use a Kelly. So let's say you want to buy a Kelly, and you don't know, you're like, okay, so who should I buy it from? Let's say that wasn't obvious, like who should I buy this Kelly from? How much should I buy it for? Who should I speak to? When should I buy, like when is a good time to buy it? How should I position myself so that I can get it for the best price? Like how should I position myself to make sure that I'm the best buyer of this Kelly? Imagine if you needed someone to do all of that for you. That's basically what bankers are doing, but on a larger scale for a corporate buying another company, if that makes sense. And if you're on the other side, I wanted to sell your Kelly, and you're like, who are potential buyers of my Kelly? How much should I sell my Kelly for? When should I sell it? When people have a lot of money that they might be willing to sell it? When is a good time in the market that I should sell this Kelly? So that whole sell, if you needed someone to advise you on each of those things, that's what an investment banker is doing on a corporate level for a company trying to sell another company, or maybe sell themselves. The owners are trying to sell themselves. We do all of that advisory work. And so just in a nutshell, that's the core of what investment banking is, or what investment bankers are doing. The next question is everyone who works at an investment bank an investment banker? The answer to this one is no. But then like on a technicality basis, so if you think about it in JP Morgan or this big investment bank, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and you're like, there are many divisions. So there's the investment banking M&A divisions, which do what I just explained. There's operations, there's HR, there's markets, those are the people that actually trading and selling like a Wolf of Wall Street. But there's also like technology, all of these different divisions. And so people might work in those different divisions within an investment bank, but the investment bankers technically are the people that work in investment banking doing M&A, as I explained earlier. The next question that I also get is, what do investment bankers actually do all day? Okay, Joyce, we've heard you explain this whole concept of buying and selling, but what are you actually doing in the office when you're typing? What are you actually doing? Just explaining this from this Kelly example. So if I said, for example, oh, I think you should sell your Kelly for £20,000, you're going to be like, huh? Like, let's say that wasn't obvious. You're going to be like, huh? On what basis? How did you come up with that? So what we're doing on a day-to-day basis is all of that analysis to back up what we're telling you to do. So we're advising companies, but we're not just advising them and saying, okay, buy this company now for 5K, and they're like, yes, we'll do. We have to show them a lot of analysis. We have to kind of do the research, run the numbers, decide like, what are the prices of Kellys today? What were the prices of Kellys 5 years ago? You've used your Kelly for 3 years. How much should you sell it for now? Like all of that work, which is the valuation, is what we do. And then we put it on slides, prepare decks, and then have a discussion with the client. And we might come and show it to you as a client, and you're like, actually, maybe I don't sell this Kelly, maybe I sell this other Kelly. Or what if I wanted to sell my Kelly for 3 years only, for example? But just like any like different scenario analysis. And so this is what it looks like. And so an analyst is preparing financial models, doing valuation analysis, doing PowerPoint presentation slides, doing research in the background. And associates is doing something similar. They are checking the work that the analyst is doing, reviewing it, making sure everything is correct. So just think about it. This is not just the Kelly that might cost like, tens of thousands, but this is like companies that cost millions, or even billions, that type of thing. And so that's essentially essentially what the day-to-day job is, all of that analysis that goes into this financial decision you're about to make. And many times and obviously like when the company decide, like when you decide I'm going to buy a Kelly, the investment bank doesn't just drop off there and like, okay, go out and do your deal. Not at all. Like they then hold your hand through the process and say, okay, who are you talking to buy this Kelly from, or sell it to? How much are you going to sell it for? So until that point where there's an offer and then like actually executing of the deal, an investment bank is working with the client on that. So that's what we're doing day to day. We're working on PowerPoint, we're doing Excel, we're preparing slides, we're running the analysis, doing the valuation work to get to this point of like, this is the end of this deal and this deal has finally happened. And again, this also applies if we're raising money, the whole process of raising money, we're doing the analysis to decide how is this going to look like, whether it was through debt or equity. The other question I get a lot is, why are hours so long? Like, can't you guys just get more efficient? Can't you just hire more people? And I mean, I hear this a lot, but it's not just about being inefficient, not just that we're inefficient. It is because of, as I mentioned, even though I use the Kelly in this example, it's this higher stakes, like the things that we're dealing with, the type of decisions that I'm making are really high stakes. So because of that, there are tight deadlines, there are demands. Think about it, if you're about to even just put down £20,000 of your own money for a deal, like to buy a bag or whatever, you would want to do a lot of research. You want to be really comfortable, so the good use of your money. You really want to make sure that you're doing the right thing, you're doing it at the right time, and that's also how it goes. Like with these bigger decisions that we're making, there's a lot of tight deadline, there's client demands, there's also the fact that we work globally. So many times I sit and work in London, but I might work with people who live in Europe, I might work with people who live in Asia, in New York. I kind of have to work around those hours. And I know how people might say, oh, but you can just outsource the work when it's time for you to sleep. Sometimes it's not that easy, again, because maybe like you've been holding the power. Even when you're working on a deck or you're working on a material, you're working on a model, it's not that easy to just transfer it over to someone to pick up if they haven't looked at it all day, they haven't looked at it before then. So those are the type of things that happen. But then of course there's AI and TBD, how AI transforms this industry. There's all these AI that people are building that could really, really change the way that we work, and are already starting to help investment bankers get more efficient. But yeah, that's why the hours are long, because all of these things require our high scrutiny. There's a lot of work to do, by the way. Like, it's not just we're working with you and selling your one Kelly. Many times we're working with one person selling their Kelly, or working with another person selling their bag, or working with another person selling this other shoe, or just by the way, using those as examples, but just working with multiple people, because these deals also take a lot of time to close. So it's not like we're just going to work with one client. So that's one thing as well that makes the hours really long. Another question that I get a lot is, how do you get into investment banking? Simple answer, I would say from my perspective, is through an internship. To be honest, I would say like that is the short, simplest way. If you're an undergrad and you apply to an investment banking summer internship, that's the way you can get it. Or a spring internship. If you are in an MBA, there are some companies, especially in the US, that do MBA associate internships, so you can apply to those. So I think getting through an internship. Context on myself is, I went to school in Nigeria. I'm Nigerian. I came to London, did my summer internship, and then I got a full-time offer, and then I moved here to start my job. So it was mostly through an internship. There are people who moved from Big Four into investment banking, or maybe started out doing something else and then they transfer laterally, especially like in smaller regional offices in Europe, for example, and maybe in America. That could be a thing. But I would say like many times it's just positioning yourself for an internship. And the tip I would give for that is making sure that you're really resilient. Like, one day I would tell the story of how many times, like how much I had to apply and stay diligent with applying to my banking internship before I finally got in. So yeah, I have to be quite diligent because it's really competitive, and I think it's so much more competitive now versus it was when I was applying. So you have to be quite resilient. Don't give up. If you're out there and you're applying, don't give up hope. You never know which one's gonna work out. But another question I get a lot is, who is a good fit for investment banking? Like, what type of person is a good fit, Joyce? For this one, I would say that there's not one person. I would say that I worked with quite a few people with different personalities. So it's not like you have to be one certain type of person to thrive working in investment banking. I would just say that there are qualities that definitely help you, and I would say those are being willing to work hard, because as I mentioned a few times lifestyle is quite demanding. It asks a lot, you have to work hard, you have to be willing to work hard, you have to be willing to learn. I wouldn't say that anything is rocket science in the job that investment bankers do, not at all. You can learn it. There's no need to think that, oh, I'm so out of finance, I've never done finance. You can learn it, so you need to be willing to learn. I think a third, maybe also being quite attentive to detail. I'm sure this is oversaid in this industry, but I think as you understand now, it is because of how high stakes what we're working on is. Imagine telling somebody that, imagine checking the prices of Kelly and seeing one that you think costs £2,000, and then you tell the person that is buying, oh, it actually costs £2,000, but it was actually 20. You just read wrong. I don't know if that's a bad example, but that's just like attention to detail is quite important in the job. So attention to detail, being willing to work hard, being willing to learn. I think being like quite emotionally resilient as well, because things happen. Not every deal that you're working on works out. Things fail. Stuff are high pressure, so you have to just kind of be willing and able to manage the pressure. I think there's also a point of being able to get feedback and then work on that feedback, like not taking feedback personally, but then saying, okay, this is what I need to work on. How am I going to actually implement? Is this something I know how to implement and something I will be able to implement? Is also an important quality attribute to have to work in investment banking. Okay, maybe finally I would then cover some pros and cons of working in investment banking. I think aside from financial rewards, as in it's a job that pays well, there is also the fact that you get a lot of exposure. So you learn about companies, industries, like some of the companies and industries that I've gotten exposed to, I didn't even know they existed because you don't see them on a day-to-day basis, but it's such a good learning ground. I think for me personally, I loved that aspect of it. I think also it is a good training ground in general. A lot of people who have worked in investment banking go on to do great things. Not that people that have worked in other things don't go on to do great things, but I think just the grades, the stamina that they learn from doing investment banking really helps when people go on to do other stuff like starting a company, investing, just running their business, whatever. Those are some upsides. And then in terms of what would be downsides, I would say obviously the lifestyle, just because the workload is heavy, it's intense, lifestyle can be tough, and so it can also be mentally quite draining sometimes. So it's not for everyone. And when I say it's not for everyone, I don't even mean it in an elitist way, as in only a few of us can do investment banking, not at all. I just kind of mean it from a genuinely, there are many divisions within an investment bank, and people have to be quite honest with themselves. What am I looking for at this stage in my life? What type of job do I want to do? What type of hours do I think I'll be able to manage because of the way my life is working right now, as they think about a career in investment banking or within an investment bank. So yeah, I hope this has been useful to someone out there. Let me know if there are any questions that I haven't answered or anything else that you'd like to learn about working in investment banking that you haven't quite heard yet. Feel free to leave a question in the comments, respond in the comments, or I can also make another video out of it. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.